Well, I got 2 minutes into recording this video before I realized I hadn't turned my microphone on. Oh well. So, in all the kerfuffle and hubbub regarding pumpkin beers in the various beer community groups this year, the Elysian offerings received generally high praise. I have never had an Elysian pumpkin ale. This will be my first, and this is Elysian's Night Owl Pumpkin Ale, which I have already poured and opened. Sorry. That's why the bumper music was at the beginning of the video. So, when I first opened the bottle, I found a pumpkin cider-like aroma coming out. This mild sweetness, and then the rounded, kind of gourd pumpkin flavors in there. As I stick my nose into it, it's even more so. In fact, I am picking up, like, apple cider with pumpkins. How you typically find a pumpkin cider these days. 99% of ciders these days are 99% apple with whatever other adjuncts they were using to produce the desired target. So a cranberry cider is going to be apple cider with cranberries for flavoring. A pumpkin cider will be apple cider with pumpkins for flavoring, right? So this is a pumpkin ale. That is not to say it is a pumpkin spice ale, though there are the pumpkin spices in here. They actually used pumpkin in the brewing of this beer, and then also the spices that are typical of pumpkin pie spice. But yeah, that aroma is very sweet. Not badly so. It smells strongly of cinnamon, of pumpkin, of apple. They're very fall flavors. It doesn't smell very much like a beer, though. That's kind of interesting. I fully admit I have not had all that many Elysian beers. They're really easy to find. Like, they take up 20% of the store shelves sometimes, even in relatively big name box retailers. And I think that fact tends to put me off of them. I drank niche before it was cool. There is also almost a biscuit aroma, which kind of, with all the other flavors in here, reminds me of a pumpkin pie spiced apple pie. Or a pumpkin flavored apple pie, maybe. Like, there's a crust-like note to it. It smells really good. The color's pretty nice, too. Kind of red-brown. Yeah, well, let's see how it tastes. Oh, and also, it's pretty thick. I don't know if you noticed that, but yeah, there's a lot of unfermented sugars in there probably, which probably also accounts for that apple pie-like aroma. Oh. Interesting. Good. Not good. You know, my good but not. No. It's tasty. It's unique. It is totally different from the other pumpkin beers I have had this year. I think, to get the criticism out of the way, it feels short. When you take a bite of apple pie, that sweetness stays on your tongue, right? And you have that thick filling syrup stuff. That stays on your tongue even after you swallow. So you have the apple in your mouth. And it's not that the beer disappears completely from your mouth, but the sweetness disappears completely. For being so kind of thick-bodied there, and for having the aroma of the apple pie plus pumpkin that I was picking up beforehand, I'm just surprised at how quickly that sweetness is gone. But I'm also probably happy, because a beer that sweet would be maybe harder to enjoy regularly. Like, it'd be a dessert beer rather than a beer you could actually enjoy regularly. But there does feel to be a disconnect between the nose and the flavor because of that. So what you get as you drink is flavors similar to what you smell. There's this spiced apple pie with a pumpkin thing going on there. And And those spices are really, really prominent, almost to the point of being dominant. In fact, it's kind of hard to tell where the spices end and the hops begin. The hops that are being used are pretty earthy, and that's nice. That's a nice finish for this kind of beer. So overall, like, there's some really, the flavors here are good, and I like the decisions they've made regarding them. There's nothing hugely out of balance. I think I'm just trying to get my head around the fact that I was expecting it to be far sweeter than it turned out to be, and then what little sweetness there was in the beer itself is gone very quickly. And I'm kind of expecting it to be there longer when it isn't. Yeah, I think that's probably the source of my consternation, confusion here. Like, so long as you hold the beer in your mouth, it's good. It's still that kind of apple juice with pumpkin to it. And then as you start swallowing, the spices start to take over. You do taste like cinnamon up front, but like the nutmeg and the allspice and some of those other earthier flavors come into prominence more as the rest of the beer clears out of your mouth. And then those fade into this really nice earthy finish, which is really pleasant. And it just goes and goes and goes. That's, once I'm used to it, this is good. I'm enjoying this. I feel like I'm being more cautious in my optimism. But I don't think the beer warrants that, though it might. Maybe my subconscious self has found all sorts of problems with the beer. But yeah, I think my one criticism would be I kind of expect the sweetness to linger in my mouth longer, and it doesn't. Oh, and second criticism, there's too much apple in this. Like, that is what I'm tasting. I don't see any indication they used apple in this beer. It is pumpkin and spiced with nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, ginger, and allspice. And the pumpkin's kind of there. It's ode to pumpkin, essence of pumpkin, air of pumpkin, whatever. But not really like this earthy gourd flavor that I really enjoyed in the Great Gourds of Fire, or even in the Imperial pumpkin ale from whoever it was I had that one from, Fremont or something. It might have been Fremont, earlier this year. The dominant flavor still feels as though it is apple, which, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a good apple. It doesn't feel manufactured or fake, and it fits in with the theme of the beer very nicely. It's just not pumpkin, right? Be that as it may. It's still a great beer. It has good flavors. I enjoy it quite a bit. I'm just a little confused, that's all. I'm going to say, in my newly inaugurated beer rating system, which is 0 to 3 stars, 0 stars is don't bother. It's a bad beer. 1 star is it's a fine beer. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. 2 stars is I actually enjoy this. Well, I probably enjoy 1-star beers as well. 0 stars will be the beers I actually don't enjoy, and I recommend that you not bother drinking them. 1 stars are beers that are fine to drink. You shouldn't feel ashamed drinking a 1 star. You shouldn't even feel ashamed liking a 1 star. Frankly, you shouldn't feel ashamed liking a 0 star that's your flavor, not mine. But, for me personally, if I'm rating these, I'm going to repeat myself again. 0 stars, don't bother. 1 star, it's a fine beer, but nothing special. 2 stars, it's a special beer. It's a good beer, but not like write home about it. Enjoy it. If you see it on the store shelves, it's probably worth buying. 3 stars is it's worth looking for this beer. Like, it's worth going out of your way to find this beer, right? So I'm expecting most beers to fall in the 2-star range for me. That just keeps it simple. Is it better than 2 stars? Is it worse than 2 stars? Or is it just 2 stars? This is a 2-star beer, right? It's a good beer. It's worth buying. Just keep in mind, it's probably going to be more about apple than it is about pumpkin. And that's my final thoughts. This is me, Matthew. I've been drinking and enjoying, if wondering a little bit about, Night Owl Pumpkin Ale by Elysian Brewing. And I'll catch y'all on the flip side.